Good morning. It's Friday the 18th of September and it's time for Boris's Best of British Bulletin. In Scots Tory news, this week, somewhat unsurprisingly, the 6 Scots Tory MPs, including their Scottish branch office supervisor, Dross MP, all voted with the government to disadvantage their own country by voting for the UK Internal Market Bill. In fact, it fell to English Tory MPs, Sajid Javid, Sir Roger Gale and Andrew Percy, to vote against it at its first reading. After the first reading, Dross predictably turned on the SNP, biting back that this bill at its heart, at its core, at its centre is about jobs and businesses, and isn't it telling tonight that in all the SNP speeches I've listened to, jobs and businesses have not been mentioned once? I think he must have been asleep or fiddling with his phone or his balls or something, because at least 2 SNP MPs mentioned concerns about jobs and effects on business in their interventions. I suppose the most unjust thing about this vote is that SNP MP Amy Callaghan was prevented from voting in it as she had been absent from Parliament due to illness. But an MP accused of rape can still participate in proceedings remotely. And if my suspicions are correct, he did. If anything can ever show us how utterly morally bankrupt Westminster is, it's that. But getting back to Dross, now in his high-profile role as Scottish Tory branch office supervisor, he was invited onto telly last weekend. He tried to come across all powerful and authoritative. It didn't go very well. Watch this.
Do you not take the temperature of your own country?
Yes, I do.
Look at the performance of the SNP, and one opinion poll makes no difference, but a slew of opinion polls, month after month after month, the SNP commanding 54, 55% of the vote. Your own party, and it has to be said, since you took over, hasn't increased its share of the vote.
Well, have you seen an opinion poll since
it's down at about 20%.
Have you seen an opinion poll since I became leader? Because that's a big accusation that you're making, that my party has stalled or gone down. So if you can quote the opinion poll that's been held in the last month since I became leader, that would be really interesting.
After previously being pro-union, Ewan McGregor came out in support of Scots independence this week. Yes, if Obi-Wan Kenobi thinks it will work, then that's good enough for me. For some reason, all of the unionist voices calling for expat Scots to be allowed to vote have suddenly been silenced, just like the millions of voices on the planet Alderaan as it was destroyed by the Death Star. Okay, that was the Alec Guinness version of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you get the gist. We're still waiting for Michael Gove, George Galloway and Danny Alexander to come out in support of Los Angeles resident Ewan's right as a Scot living abroad to vote in any election or referendum. In UK Tory news, what do Kim Jong-il, Idi Amin, Saddam Hussein and Adolf Hitler have in common with Boris Johnson? Give up? Well, they have all, with the support of their ministers, said they will break international law. And what I'm sure is an entirely coincidental coincidence, the time that elapsed from Hitler signing the Munich Agreement and breaching it by annexing Czechoslovakia is exactly the same time that has elapsed since Boris Johnson signing the EU withdrawal agreement and then announcing that he's going to breach it. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's fucking spooky. I'm often told that comparing politicians I disagree with to the Nazis is lazy, but we have a charismatic leader of a far-right group who came to power blaming minorities for the ills of society and promising to restore said country to its former glory after supposedly the rest of Europe has humiliated us. They're undermining previous treaties and agreements which guaranteed peace and trying to remove rights from citizens so they can get rid of the ones they don't like from the country, and trying to change laws and attack the jurisdiction of government and courts to further consolidate their power. I saw, but couldn't find it again, someone asking online if this is what it looked like in Germany in the 1930s. Is this how it starts? A history professor replied, it started ages ago. It's already well underway. So, people of the UK, are the alarm bells from history ringing yet? Remember, folks, if you break the rule of 6, you're breaking the law, and your neighbours should grass you up. But if the UK government breaks international law, that's okay. It's worth remembering that each MP's oath of allegiance includes, I will give my loyalty to the United Kingdom, uphold its democratic values and observe laws faithfully. The Police Minister said it's okay to break the law. The Lord Chancellor, Britain's highest law officer, said it's okay to break the law. His Scottish equivalent, Lord Keane, the Advocate General, despite being a Tory Lord, resigned his position. The Attorney General, responsible for advising the government on legal matters, said it's okay to break the law. The Lord Chancellor and the Attorney General are barristers, and the Bar Council guidelines say you will be struck off if you knowingly advise a client to break the law. Now, I'm not suggesting anyone reports the Right Honourable Robert Buckland QC MP to the Bar Council, but I'm not unsuggesting either. I'm also not suggesting that anybody reports the Right Honourable Suella Braverman QC MP to the Bar Council. But as before, I'm not unsuggesting it either. Nor am I suggesting that anyone checks to see how many Tory MPs are licensed to practice law, finding out who among them voted for the bill and thereby support breaking international law, and reporting them too. But again, I'm not unsuggesting it either. In other news, Gavin Williamson and Mark Francois were nominated for the MP of the Year award. When was the last known sighting of Mark Francois? He hasn't been seen for a while. He usually tries to get his coupon on telly at least once a week, but he hasn't been seen since he was allegedly spotted skulking out of Jacob Rees-Mogg's office, just before the Parliament went into recess. I hope he's okay. In what I'm sure is totally unrelated news, former Tory MP Charlie Elphick was jailed for 2 years for 3 sexual assaults. While still a Tory MP and not yet a convicted sex offender, Mr Elphick tried to restrict access to legal aid for people attending Crown Court. Then, the self-styled naughty Tory applied for legal aid himself. Thankfully, he was told to sling his fucking hook. He now owes his estranged wife Natalie £100,000, which she loaned him for legal fees. He also owes more than that to his lawyers. His family home in Kent is being sold, with the £400,000 equity to be split between the divorcing couple. Karma can be a hard-assed bitch sometimes. Environment news. And as a livable world slips relentlessly from our grasp, the UK spent just £2,000. Yes, just £2,000 tackling environmental damage to the British countryside. They previously spent £46 million, that's 23,000 times as much, telling us to get ready for a Brexit that didn't happen, including £11 million on commemorative 50p coins that had to be melted down again. And the Tory-appointed head of the Environment Agency endorsed proposals to weaken laws on the cleanliness of rivers, lakes and coastlines. Matt Hadcock said we should get back to work, as there's little evidence coronavirus is passed on in offices. This is, of course, after seeing Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings catch coronavirus in their office. Then he voted for himself to continue to work remotely for 11 more weeks. Maybe the home working extension is more of a favour to Mark Francois MP, so he can continue remote voting. You see, he hasn't been seen in Parliament for a while. I think the last time I saw his coupon on telly was just before the recess. I do hope he's okay. Moving on. The Tories told us face masks were not essential. Then they told us face masks were essential, but not in schools. Then they were essential in schools. Then they told us to keep social distancing. Then they held a meeting of 50 MPs in a room with a capacity for 29, with most of the cabinet in attendance. Then only minutes later, they tweeted that they were updating advice to ban meeting in groups of 30 or over. Then they banned you from meeting more than 6 people. But you can still go to a pub, 30 of you can attend a wedding, or more likely a funeral, 30 of you can get in a rugby scrum, and you can sit in a packed train carriage with 80 other people. Oh, and obviously, grouse shooting is exempt. Interestingly, the new ban didn't start for a week and excluded the St Leger horse race meeting. There were 3,640 people crowded together making money for the jockey club. It is, of course, an entirely coincidental coincidence that Matt Hancock is the MP for Newmarket, where his major donors, the Jockey Club, are based. Matt Hancock said he was changing the law to allow nurses to give flu vaccinations, apparently unaware that nurses already give over 93% of flu vaccinations. Matt Hancock is the actual health secretary. The government announced Operation Moonshot, an exciting-sounding £100 billion plan to test 10 million people a day using technology that doesn't exist, going to be delivered by the people behind the PPE crisis, Brexit, Gavin Williamson and Chris Grayling literally failing his own intelligence test. Meanwhile, we ran out of home testing kits. Then more shortages led us to sending people on 500-mile round trips for a COVID test, in what experts have dubbed the full Dominic Cummings experience. 6 months after the first case in the UK, despite having diligently spent over £1 billion on contracts with sweet suppliers and dormant companies with no employees, England is still not capable of producing a single piece of hospital standard PPE. Meanwhile, Scotland, which we are always told is too wee and too poor and would wither on the vine and die if we left the UK, has been self-sufficient in hospital standard PPE production since May. I end with a bit of levity and sexual confusion. This is actress Gillian Anderson. This photo is from the 90s, when she was in the popular TV show The X-Files. Now, I don't mean to objectify women, but hell yeah. Gillian was the cause of much trouser tumescence in the 90s and the 2000s. This is a photo of her from 2020. She's 52 now, and it's fair to say the years have been kind. She still rates a hell yeah. She can definitely still raise pulses. This is Margaret Thatcher, the milk-stealing but authoritative former Prime Minister. Just in case there's any doubt, she doesn't rate a hell yeah. But this is a publicity shot of the lovely Gillian Anderson playing Margaret Thatcher. Gillian Anderson will be playing the Iron Lady in the forthcoming season 4 of the Netflix series The Crown. And millions of us who had major crushes on Agent Scully are experiencing some serious sexual confusion. But one person who won't be confused is Baroness Ruth Davidson, who has a massive crush on Gillian Anderson and even kept a framed photo of the actress in lingerie in her office. The combination of Anderson and Thatcher may just be too much for our plucky Baroness. Now, this all might sound like a particularly twisted episode of The X-Files, but this is just 1 week, just one more painfully crappy, but also painfully normal week in Tory Britain. Which leaves us with one question. Are you yes yet? P.S. I think I might have found Mark Francois. He's transitioning into Theresa Coffey. Folks, feel free to comment on the Facebook page. Keep it civil, keep it nice. Let's not be insulting each other. If unionists chew up, they're more than welcome to have their comments. And I'll see you guys next week. Love you all. DaviePHD.